Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here once again, and I am here today to review Hell's Kitchen Season 22, Episode 7. And I was really glad about this episode because it was a big improvement on the last week's episode. Last week I felt like it's probably been the weakest episode so far. And so, this episode really made up for last week, in my opinion. I guess some people might have liked it, but, honestly, it just wasn't very good. And even the IMDb, if you go to IMDb and you look at all the ratings by the limited audience, they have last episode as the weakest one as well. So, there you go. I was really worried about this episode too because they were advertising it in a way where it looked like Sammy was going to get distracted because she was crushing on this rapper who was in the dining room, and I was like, "Oh no, Sammy, no. Don't do that. Don't get distracted and get thrown off. No." So I was really worried about this week because, I know how distracting that kind of thing can be. I mean, if you guys go back to last year in my video catalog, I was very distracted for I think like 4 or 5 months because of something like that. And so, but it was different than what she was being distracted from. Like it was a different situation than that, but it was very distracting, and it can really throw you off. It really interfered with reviewing and everything, and so I was really worried that would happen with her. So anyways, they did a grilling challenge this episode where they had to grill in teams, and you had a guy and a girl, and they both had to cook a certain protein. And first off, I would like to retire Silent Sandra's nickname. Silent Sandra, you are now Sad Sack Sandra, because you're just the sad sack of the group. Even though Lee, why did I call her Lay? Is that some kind of a Freudian slip? Oh, that was... I apologize for that. What was I going to say? Even though Lee always has like a sad look on her face, she actually did have a smile this episode because she was really happy to impress the pitmaster judge. And but Silent Sandra, she has now turned into the sad sack Sandra because you want her to do well. She's an underdog. She's a true underdog. She's a fighter, and she's rough, and she's got passion, but she's just a sad sack. And so that's her new nickname. She had better fish because the other guy, he's oversalted his fish, and I felt like, you know what? They have no right here to be criticizing someone's food for being oversalted when you have Chef Gordon Ramsay's frozen meals at Walmart, and they're all like extremely oversalted. Like the chicken pot pie in particular tastes like a salt bomb. So I think that's kind of hilarious that maybe the pitmaster guy, he should taste Gordon's frozen meals. And I think that it's a very important thing because, Gordon has railed against frozen food for so many years, and now he sells out and he does these frozen meals. And I think it should be a big discussion point for people to be criticizing these frozen meals. I mean, it's hypocritical. They're terrible. The quality is inconsistent. They don't taste good. They're not good for you at all. Like, I feel sick every week after eating his food. Anyway, That's just a little tangent there. Probably going to make this review longer than it should be. I apologize for that. I will say, though, I like the pitmaster judge. He was very nice, and he had good judgment, good fair judgment, so I did like him as the guest judge. And, of course, Sammy's fish dish looks scrumptious. But you know what looks even more scrumptious? Jonathan's fish dish. And then for the thin steaks, I can't remember if it was like skirt or flat or whatever they called it. I can't remember. And I didn't write it down fast enough. But both of the men and the women overcooked these thin steaks, which was very telling. And then the guy lost, Devin, he lost because he cut his steak too early. And I think, too, that it would be very good to point out here that Devin struggled with the steak, not just in the service, but he struggled with steak the whole episode. So this thing at the end where he was blaming Jermaine, I feel like is a bunch of bullshit, and we'll get to that. Because he struggled with the steak in this challenge. And, yeah. And then also, Chef Jay warned him about cutting the steak too early, and it was just too late. He cut it. Now, Danya's steak dish looked really, really good, but she worked in a steakhouse, so she had an advantage. And I'll say this, like, I think maybe this episode I am in agreement that her steak dish was the best looking dish of the night. You know, that's the one that I would probably want to eat the most. But then again, I'm really hungry for steak because I haven't had it in like a year or more. And that's a problem. You know, steak is really good. And I'm really hungry for it. So maybe it's my hunger that's overriding my judgment. In terms of the worst food in the challenge, I think that the women, I don't think they had any worse dishes, and then I don't think the men had any worse dishes either. So it's kind of funny because, like, I think that this is the first night where in the challenge neither team has had a worst of the night dish. I have no doubt, too, that if the mother of six was still there, that she would have made the worst dish of the night. Sorry. And they did them, and also I would like to point out too, they did a much better job of grilling than the master chefs did in their entire season this year, you know. And I felt like, wow, that's pretty embarrassing. Like, these chefs are like restaurant chefs, and the fact that they did a better job grilling than the master chefs, who are like the home cooks, who should be like master grillers too. That's pretty embarrassing. That's pretty cringe. The women's team won for once. And the men have to do a challenge that once again I felt like was very oriented towards them. And I felt like this was another situation where Chef Gordon, it was kind of like, it would have fit both, but I felt like it was very perfect for the men to be doing this like strength challenge where they had to clean the grills with toothbrushes because Chef Jay was pissed off. He says, I don't like losing. And then they also have to pack up the grills as presents for the women. I felt like that was a very male-oriented punishment, and so once again I thought maybe Chef Gordon predicted that they would lose. But the reward was more like, you know, both teams would have probably enjoyed it or would have, you know, been fine with it, you know, whereas I really think that the women would have struggled with cleaning the grills and packing them up. Because, I mean, it's a bitch to clean up grills and assemble them and disassemble them. You know, I would know. You know, I used to do that a lot. And you know, when we get a house, when we get out of this stupid apartment, this hotel, we will have to do that grilling stuff again, and I don't look forward to it, honestly. Like, even though I really love grilling, and I kind of think that it's a crime to live in America and not grill, like in a real grill out in your backyard, I feel like I'm really not looking forward to that. So, and another thing too, Jason, this episode, even though, as I said, I do like him now, actually, he said one of the stupidest things the whole episode. He said he would prefer to do this punishment than go to Dave and Buster's and play games. I mean, what the hell? That is some weird shit right there. Are you kidding me? What the hell is that? You'd rather do this heavy lifting, this awful labor, like he had a hard time, he couldn't even handle like screwing and unscrewing shit, and you would rather do that than go play some fucking games inside Dave and Buster's? I mean, what a load of bullshit. Like, that was total fake, phony, egotistical, I'm showing off because I'm Jason. That was stupid. And then they added a brand new menu for Hell's Kitchen, so that made it impossible for any of them to not be able to cook the lobster. And I strongly suspect Chef Gordon, he changed the menu because he realized that none of these chefs could handle cooking lobster because of that raw lobster debacle every single episode. The lobster being raw first. And so there was nothing like that this episode until, like, I don't know, halfway through the service, I guess. And then Sad Sack Sandra, she was like, I'm with Sammy on meat. I'm really happy right now. And I was like, number one, I was very happy that she was happy because I don't want her to feel sad. Because she is a sad sack, and so that's good. But number two, I would have been happy as well for multiple reasons. But I would have been happy because, you can use Sammy as a shield. Like, she can just do all the cooking, and you kind of can just pretend like you're cooking, and then, like, Sammy will just do it all, and it'll be perfect, and then the night will be over. And I was like, yeah, I would have been happy too. So, next thing is Jermaine cannot handle doing the garnishes. And then Jason notices it. And I gotta say, like, sucking at garnishes, like, not being able to handle cooking garlic and mushrooms and mac and cheese, like, what a fucking failure. Like, and I said in the notes, why isn't he gone already? Because up to this point, he's been kind of a weak chef as well. He's really not been the strongest chef. He was one of the weaker ones on the men's team from the get-go. And then Demir, he is starting to stand out to me as being my favorite member of the men's team. And he became leader, and he really helped save the team this episode. He did a great job. I can't wait to see more of him. That was great to see. Very, very lucky that they had him there, or else they would have been screwed. Sad Sack Sandra, she just has this problem with being sad. And she just has this problem with, like, just being really, like, unable to adapt to this Hell's Kitchen environment. And I gotta admit, I would be the same way. Like, she cannot handle calling back the orders to Chef Gordon. I would have a problem with that too, because he just yells them in like 2 seconds, and then like you automatically gotta remember it and repeat it back like a machine. That would be really hard for me. I would not be able to do that. So, but that was really sad. The sad sack, that was really upsetting. Honestly, I think, and I'm going to say this is like a hot take of the week for me. I think the reason that the red team did better this week is because Carmen is good at working with that other girl that she's with. I can't remember the other girl's name, but they've kind of hit their stride together. And the mother of six is gone. Those are the real reasons why I felt like they were doing good this week, and not because they got to get the challenge reward and they won the challenge. I think it's all because of those two variables. But then again, next week it looks like they're going to be back to being trash, and they're going to be fighting each other and attacking each other, and it's just going to be like, I think that this red team is probably one of the worst teams I've ever seen, because they're just not a team. And it feels like they're never going to become a team. They're just going to keep on being at each other's throats, and that's sad. It's really sad. Right, Sandra? Jason attempts to help Jermaine, and at that point, everyone else started to try to help Jermaine. And then Sad Sack Sandra undercooked her steak, I think twice. Or I might be wrong on that. But then Devin on the blue team, he could not handle cooking steaks because he was quote unquote thrown off because of Jermaine's appetizer. Garnish flubs. So he was thrown off and he couldn't handle cooking steaks. Mwah. And I felt like, you struggled with steak in the challenge before dinner service. Jermaine wasn't at fault for your steak being trash in the challenge at the beginning of this episode. So why is Jermaine responsible for your steak in this part of the episode? Like, come on. So those two, I would have been happy with either of them going home, although I really think that Devin was the worst of the two, even though Jermaine was obviously another weak link, like some of the other ones that went home earlier this season, like, Tad, and these MasterChef contestants that are in Hell's Kitchen. And then, wow, Chef Gordon, he after he kicked out the blue team, he pulls Demir over and he says, look, you did a great job. I want you to choose your personal choice of the two nominees. And he did that because he likes Demir so much, and I thought that was cool. Like, I think that Demir is going to be one of the highlight chefs of the season, hopefully, which is nice. Jermaine and Devin are nominated. No surprise there. There wasn't even any, discussion or anything that needed to be had. Although they did have kind of like a shouting match that I just kind of zoned out of because, I'm not a high school girl like the mother of six was, so, I don't really care about this stupid high school drama crap. And then also no surprise that Jermaine finally got sent home. And, yeah, Devin is just, he blamed Jermaine. Oh, God, that would be that would have been the perfect nickname for Jermaine. Blame Jermaine. Oh, but yeah, he blamed him, and I felt like, both of these guys are big babies. Devin is a fucking crybaby because he can't handle cooking steak, and then he blames it on Jermaine because Jermaine is always to blame because, I don't know, because he's weak trash. And then Jermaine, he's a big baby too. He's like, wah! Devin is a snake in the grass. Wah! And so that's how he ended. When he got sent home, he was like, "It's not my fault. It's Devin's fault because he's a snake in the grass." Mwah! don't you guys hate babies in these drama shows and these reality shows, like these cooking competitions? You have these big babies and they can't handle anything. Like, they can't handle taking responsibility for being trash. Like, isn't that the worst? I mean, sometimes people do have legitimate reasons, and I will point over and over and over again to in an earlier MasterChef season, there was this guy, and he was very young, and you could tell that he had a lot of issues, and his parents did not support him or his cooking dreams. And they had this challenge where you got to have one of your parents come and then help you out, and they got to stand by you and support you. And on this challenge, I think they did it on purpose just to get like drama and like controversy. All the other contestants had people there to support them except for that one guy. And it was extremely, extremely upsetting. If I was on that show, I would have quit right then and there because of how embarrassing and humiliating and just sad that is. And, it's even sadder than the sad sack Sandra. And Gordon didn't even do anything to help him. I mean, he could have stepped in and been like, well, I'll cheer you on and I'll help you out. And I would have been like, that would have been a fair thing. But he did a really bad job that night. And I felt like he did have a legitimate excuse for doing bad because they threw him off his game. Taylor made this challenge where they knew that his parents don't support him. And so, like, they totally sabotaged him in that scenario. But in this case, these two guys are just a bunch of big babies. And, like, they just blame each other for everything. And they need to take some responsibility and move on and try to get better. I would give this episode an A-. I thought it was very good. It was a lot better than last week. I enjoyed the episode from beginning to end, and I love talking about the show. It's one of my favorite things that I review. I can't wait for next week because it looks like we're going to get a lot of Carmen's mental gymnastics, and I'm so excited. I think, like, I haven't been this excited for something since, like, I don't know, like, maybe since I was a kid or something. Like, I'm that excited to see Carmen's mental gymnastics at play because it looks like they're going to have this thing where, like, Gordon pulls her and this other girl up to his office like it's the principal's office, and you have these two kids at school who are fighting with each other. So please like this video and comment and tell me what you think about Chef Gordon's awful frozen meals and also these big babies. I'm not going to say man babies because that makes me sound like a feminazi. And then please also subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more honest Hell's Kitchen reviews. Goodbye, everybody. See you soon.